Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Peace be with you. The Prophet ﷺ settled in Medina and started to organize things around him at the social level within the community, as we saw. Now the relationship with Ahl Quraysh were quite bad because of course they were not happy that he was able to escape, that to settle in Medina, and they were thinking about the future. What if he now start new alliances and shift the center of gravity of power in the region? So they were scared and they tried to get new alliances themselves just to be able to attack the Prophet ﷺ. What they did also is that while they left and they were now in Medina, they started to do something which was against the code of honor among the Arabs and the Arab tribes at that time. They took the belongings and the properties of the Muslims who left, and this was completely wrong. So the Prophet ﷺ started to retaliate by saying, okay, what you do now, it's against honor and dignity. What we are going to do when the caravans coming from Mecca are going to come around us, we'll take what we want from them. In fact, we'll take our money back. And this is what he did 7 times. And only involving in this expeditions al-Muhajirun, people who were coming from Mecca, because they were in fact the one who were the victims of what Ahl Quraysh were doing. And at one point what happened is that it was always difficult, and he started gathering intelligence to know what they were doing. And Abdullah ibn Jahsh once went to try to take something from a caravan, and he killed somebody from Ahl Quraysh during the months of Rajab. And the Ahl Quraysh took advantage from this by saying in the region, look, they are not even respecting the sacred months of Rajab, where war is prohibited. And it was always like this. In this very tense situation, the Prophet ﷺ got and received 2 revelations that were important for the future. Because in fact these revelations were changing, asking him in fact to change his own strategy. Because for 13 years he was peaceful, passive, resisting the aggression, and at the end what he did, he left Mecca. This exile was to left the oppression, because God's earth is wide and spacious, and this is what he did. Now what he got as the revelation telling him that he had to think about a new strategy is the verse of the Quran. بعد أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم أذن للذين يقاتلون بأنهم ظلموا وإن الله على نصرهم لقدير الذين أخرجوا من ديارهم بغير حق إلا أن يقولوا ربنا الله. So permission is given to those who are fought against, and God is able to give them victory. Those who were unjustly evicted from their homes merely for saying our Lord is God. So this is their situation. They have been unjustly attacked in Mecca because of what they were thinking, and they were evicted from their homes, and they had to go to Medina. And now it's not over. It's not because that they left and that's over. No, the Ahl Quraysh, it was quite clear that they wanted again to retaliate and even to destroy the Muslim community settled in Medina. So the permission is given now to the Muslims to resist. And we have to get this, because what is said in many of the Orientalist studies, and even people from outside the Islamic tradition are saying the Prophet ﷺ, or the Prophet of the Muslims, was peaceful for 13 years, and when he arrived in Medina he changed completely and he became a warrior. That's not what happened. In fact, what we saw with the first 7 expeditions, it was a defensive. You are taking our money, we resist by taking the money because you are not respecting the code of honor. And here again, they were evicted from their homes, they had to leave, and it's not over. You still want to destroy the community, so now it's time to resist. That's an important message again for us. It's a trans-historical message, because what we find just after these two verses is a verse helping the Muslim to understand the very nature of humanity. The very nature of humanity. When the first revelation came, Abu Bakr as-Siddiq, as all the companions, but he was the first, he understood, oh, it's going to be about war. Times and coming times are going to be difficult for us, because we have to prepare ourselves to repression and attacks. And then the wisdom of the human history, it's given to us in the following verses, when it is said, ولولا دفع الله الناس بعضهم ببعض لهدمت صوامع وبيع وصلوات ومساجد يذكر فيها اسم الله كثيرا ولينصرن الله من ينصره إن الله لقوي عزيز. Or is not that God repels people by means of others, monasteries, churches, synagogues and mosques, where the name of God is mentioned much, would have been demolished. God supports whoever supports him. God is strong and mighty. This teaching about the wisdom that we need to get when it comes to our fellow human brothers and sisters in humanity is that the reality and the first reality is the reality of conflict. In fact, peace is not the natural state for humanity. Conflicts are the natural state, and without these conflicts, you cannot get peace. You can be a pacifist, sitting down and hoping that peace will come. That's not going to happen. Why? Because as we heard from the beginning with the angels, asking God, are you going to set on earth a being that is going to spread corruption and bloodshed? Are you going to do this? And he said, I know what you do not know. أتجعل فيها من يفسد فيها ويسفك الدماء. Is it this that so we have this natural temptation to corrupt and destroy. This is what we will find in human beings. So we need to have people resisting this trend, resisting this temptation. And this conflict, this natural conflict, is the only way to get peace. Absolute power among human beings is corruption. Balance of power is the way to get harmony and peace. And you have a broader understanding beyond even the religious diversity, because here we are talking about monasteries, churches, synagogues and mosques. We have something which is broader than that in another verse telling us exactly the same. ولولا دفع الله الناس بعضهم ببعض لفسدت الأرض ولكن الله ذو فضل على العالمين. If it was not for a set of people to resist the other, the earth would have been corrupt. So corruption is coming from this absolute power. The only absolute power is for God. As to human beings, it's a balance of power. It's the reality of competing for what is good. And this is the only way we will get peace. So peace is an ideal to construct, to reach out of our resistance to the oppressors or to the injustice that human beings are going to spread on earth. That's a very important message. And this is where we have to ask ourselves, what is my role on earth today? Wherever I live, I can live in the West or in the United States or in African countries or wherever I am. Am I on the side of those who resist corruption and injustice? Or am I spreading injustice and corruption? So it's up to me to decide where I stand. And this is the first message the Prophet ﷺ got, telling him something which is beyond the natural rule among humanity. Now, in order for you to survive, you will have to face, and again, it's a defensive, it's a resistance to the oppressor. It's not you are not going to attack, you are going to resist. This is what is said in the verse. And we have to get this. So it's a legitimate resistance to oppression. This is one. Second, the natural rule here that you need to get is This is what you have to do, and this is what God is asking you to do on earth. This should be your role. And the third teaching that he got from this, it's going to be difficult. You are going to be attacked. So it's not over. It's not the end of the story. Medina was for you a way to escape. Now you have to build. Now you have to resist. Now you have to spread the message and at the same time protect yourself. The second revelation that came to him when he was in Medina after 1.5 years or so was in fact the change of Qibla, the direction. Since the very beginning, they were praying towards Jerusalem. And a verse came telling them that they have to change. And this is what we find in the Quran. قَدْ نَرَى تَقَلُّبَ وَجْهِكَ فِي السَّمَاءِ فَلَنُوَلِّيَنَّكِ قَبْلَةً تَرْضَاهَا فَوَلِّ وَجْهَكَ شَطْرَ الْمَسْجِدِ الْحَرَامِ وَحَيْثُمَا كُنْتُمْ فَوَلُّوا وُجُوهَكُمْ شَطْرَهُ وَإِنَّ الَّذِينَ أُوتُوا الْكِتَابَ لَيَعْلَمُونَ أَنَّهُ الْحَقُّ مِنْ رَبِّهِمْ وَمَا اللَّهُ بِغَافِلٍ عَمَّا يَعْمَلُونَ. We have seen your face turn towards the heaven, so we will turn you towards a direction that will satisfy you. So turn your face towards the sacred mosque. And wherever you may be, turn your faces towards it. Those who were given the book know that this is the truth from their Lord, and God is not unaware of what they do. Change your direction. Change your direction. You were facing Jerusalem, and still the first Qibla, as I said, is essential. Jerusalem is a sacred place for Muslims. But now you have to change and you turn your face towards Al-Kaaba, towards Mecca. And with this new revelation, that they had to change, 3 teachings were given to the Prophet ﷺ to think about, and spreading also information in the surrounding tribes and community. The first was by turning your face, meaning turning your heart, meaning turning your life towards Al-Qibla, towards Mecca and Kaaba, is to reconnect with the one who built Al-Kaaba, Ibrahim alayhi salam. So it's the reconnection to pure Hanifa, monotheism. So this is where you come back to the essential. Beyond Christianity, beyond Judaism, you come back to Abraham, the father of all monotheism. That's the first spiritual teaching. The second was for the surrounding tribes, the Jewish tribes and the Christian tribes. It was, I may respect Moses alayhi salam, I may respect Jesus alayhi salam, but my way is to come back to the natural way of Abraham. So it was a message of mutual respect, but accepting and knowing the differences. So it was a distinction. And clearly the Jewish tribes and even the Christians there were worried straight away. What is happening? Why is he changing? Does it mean that we are his enemies, or what we can get out of this message? So it was a clear way of showing mutual respect and distinctiveness. That is essential here in the relationship. And the last message was also a message sent to Ahl Quraysh, because they left Mecca and they went to Medina. And by changing their direction and facing now Al-Kaaba, it meant for the people of Ahl Quraysh that, okay, Al-Kaaba and Mecca is central for the Muslims. So yes, we left, but it doesn't mean that we are far and we are not reconnecting or connected to the reality of Mecca and Al-Kaaba. So an important teaching. So Al-Kaaba is the center. So we went at the periphery, but it means also that one day we'll come back at the center. And it's a message that was to clarify the reality of the Muslims and the relationship the Muslims had with Al-Kaaba and with Mecca. And we know how important it is today. These were 2 main messages that the Prophet ﷺ got, and the teachings that we can draw out of these two verses. And then came 2 years after the Prophet ﷺ was in Mecca, Ghazwat Badr, the Battle of Badr. And as you know, this was during the Ramadan, the second year of the presence. And what is known is that the Prophet ﷺ, on his way, it was during Ramadan, and he decided not to fast because this was also what you do when you travel. He sent a message. He was clear with the fact we need to get things easy. You have to take with a rojas, with what is helping you in your religion to make things easy. So this is what he said. Yassiru wa la tu'assiru, make things easy and not make things harsh to the people. So during Ramadan and during the Ghazwat Badr, one of the most important battles for the Muslims during Ramadan was while the Muslims were during Ramadan not fasting and facing the reality of traveling and facing the enemy. And by the way, some of the Muslims were fasting, and this is where you can decide what in which way you want to go. You can fast if you are ready, and you can avoid fasting, taking the rojas, the easy solution for you in this time. So the Prophet ﷺ was going, and he wanted to avoid the battle, by the way. He wanted first just to have something which was an expedition, and to do what he did before, to take the belongings and the money, just this way of retaliate against what they did in Mecca, against their taking their properties over there. So this is what he wanted to do, and at the end it ended up with a battle, an important battle. 300 Muslims or so against more than 1,000 people from Quraysh. So there are teachings in this story. At the end they won. But before this, when they arrived at Badr, the Prophet ﷺ decided to organize things around the first whale in order to help the Muslim to get this water. And in fact, one of the companions, Hubab ibn al-Mundhir, came to him and asked him, we are here because it's a revelation, where you placed us here because of the revelation, or is it your opinion? And the Prophet ﷺ said, it's my opinion. Hubab told him, that's not the right place to be. We have to go further and to be at the biggest whale in order to prevent the enemy from getting there and getting water. So we will prevent them from getting water. And the Prophet ﷺ thought about it and said, okay, that's the right way. So he changed the strategy and followed the companions. And once again, for a leader to behave in such a way with his companions and the followers means so much, that the fact they were able to understand, we can talk, we have our own opinions, and if we have expertise in a field, we should be able to express ourselves, and they were listened to. This is what the Prophet ﷺ did, and as a leader, this is the way he was spreading the message, always relying on two things: the deep faith of the followers and their critical thinking. It was, we have so many ahadiths that when he was asking a question and letting them think about, when he said, the strong among you is not the one who is beating the enemy. So, okay, who is the strong then? The one who master his anger, or who master himself or herself when he is or she is angry. Look, one question, you think you will get the answer, I'm giving you another answer. And through the other answer, you get the deeper and the very essence of your religion. Who is the wealthy among you? Oh, the wealthy is the one who have money. No, the most wealthy among you is the one who has this wealth of the soul. So it's the spiritual wealth which is more important. And asking the companions, help your brother when he is wrong or right. Ansur akhaka zaliman aw mazluma. Say, okay, I can help him when he is right, but how am I going to help him when he is wrong? The answer once again is prevent him from doing wrong. So you should think that the first natural attitude would say, I cannot help my brother when he is wrong, And yes, you can, by preventing from doing wrong. So you can here get the prophetic pedagogy, dealing with the critical thinking and helping them to think. And he followed. He followed because when it comes to prophethood, we obey. But when it comes to worldly affairs, if you are knowledgeable, we have to follow. You know, a French philosopher was saying that the great teacher is the one who is teaching you not to think like him, but to think without him. What we need to get is the great leader is not the one who thinks for you, but think with you. That's the reality, that's consultation. This is the shura that we know in the Islamic tradition, and this is the way the Prophet ﷺ, was dealing with the companion. And the way he dealt with Hubab, the way he dealt with all the companions everywhere. So after Badr, and this was a victory, they came back, and they came back with prisoners. And look at this as well. What he did with the prisoners, with some of them, if they had the money to pay for the ransom, he took the money. And for others who were not rich, he told them, look, you are prisoners. Now, if you want to be free, you have to teach to 10 Muslims to read and write, and this will be your ransom. Meaning here, at the end of the day, knowledge, it's what matters, and you have to, we will take this from you, and we don't care about your money. It's also a deep teaching. This was not, you know, the customary at that time. And this is the way the Prophet ﷺ was teaching to the people. What we want is not worldly money. We don't want fame. We don't want power. We want knowledge, and we want to serve, and we want to be brothers and sisters in humanity. He went back to Medina, and from there he started to hear that people, and especially a Jewish tribe in Banu Qaynuqa, were starting to plot against him because they were not happy that he won the battle. He went to see them and say, oh, no, nothing is happening, but he got that something was wrong. And a woman went there, and the way she was treated, humiliated over there, against the covenant that they had of mutual protection, make the Prophet ﷺ understood that they were preparing something. So he went there and he told them, that's over. You broke the covenant among us, so now you leave. And this, by the way, was against what the people were doing at that time, because they were, if a covenant was broken, they were to kill the males and to take the women as slaves, and then to take the belongings. He did the opposite. He took the belonging and he told them, leave now. And this had an impact in the future. Why? Because they went to other Jewish tribes and they started plotting against him, and it will come back to him, and it will come back as attacks against the Muslims a second time and even a third time. And after the third time, he took the strong position, saying, I'm not going to let you do this again. We need to get this history, because the way it's narrated in some Orientalist books is, oh, he was a warrior. The Muslims were warriors after they settled in Medina. They were killing the people. They were just spreading war, and jihad is all about war. In fact, it's exactly the opposite. Resisting oppression to get peace, and with all the tribe, stick to your contract. We will stick to our contract, and this is where we stand. Why? Because al-Muslimun 'inda shurutihim. The Muslims should respect their contracts. This is what the Prophet ﷺ did, and he reacted on defensive jihad, defensive resistance, where the people around him were not respecting their contracts and the covenants. Don't forget to tell the people you love that you love them. Life is fragile.